The defending world champions are back in action this summer, and they are bringing with them more talent than they probably know what to do with. In this video, we're taking a look at France and how they stack up heading into this summer's European Championships. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. My name is Will Fowler. If you know me, welcome back. So happy to see you again. If you don't know me, go ahead and make yourself comfortable. Maybe hit the subscribe button while you're at it. So yesterday we talked about England and the way that the Three Lions look heading into this summer's European Championships. To continue the previews, we're going to take a look today at France, Les Bleus, l'équipe de France, the defending World Cup champions. This insanely talented squad. We're going to look at how they're structured. We're going to take a look at the manager, the group, the tactics, everything you need to know about the defending world champions. Now, we all remember just how good this squad was back in 2018 when they won the World Cup. But what might scare some people is that they might even be better this time around. It's a very similar squad to that World Cup winning team back in 2018 with a handful of tweaks. So let's go ahead and take a look at who France have brought to the Euros. And before we even take a look at who France have brought in this 26-man squad, let's quickly take a look at who they haven't. Because it's obscene, it's vile, it's vulgar, the amount of talented players that don't get to be on the plane for France in this year's Euros. Dayot Upamecano missed the plane. Eduardo Camavinga, Theo Hernandez, Tanguy Ndombele missed the plane. Houssem Aouar, Alexandre Lacazette, Anthony Martial. It is, I mean, you could probably field a 26-man squad of players that aren't in France's team this summer, and they'd still make a pretty decent run in this competition. That should give you an idea of how big this talent pool is that France have to choose from. Taking a look at who did make the squad for France in this year's Euros, I want to talk about one player specifically first, and because I'm so happy that he's back involved with Les Bleus, and that's Karim Benzema, back in the team after a 6-year hiatus, and he looks to be in line for a pretty massive role right away with the squad. If you watched France's friendly against Wales back on Wednesday, you saw just how big of an impact Benzema had on this French team, the way it played in attack. He was fantastic, and he didn't even find the back of the net. In fact, that was probably the only thing he didn't do on Wednesday, was find the back of the net. Benzema somehow takes the world's best attack, at least I think, in international football, and makes it even better, which is scary to think about, but it's simply because he provides these technically gifted, these world-class forwards more freedom and more space to operate because there's so much attention now on him and the way he plays. For a long time, I thought that Karim Benzema has been one of the most underrated and underappreciated forwards in world football. And yes, it's because of how good he is in front of goal. He's very good at finishing off chances, but it's also what he does in the build-up play. He can drop into the half spaces, create some problems for opposition defenders. He can drop even deeper, pick up the ball in midfield and carry it forward. He can get wide to create. He does everything extremely well for this Real Madrid side. And the fact that he can now come and do it with France is scary, especially considering the other attacking talent they have in this team. Quite literally, the last thing you want to do when you're a team playing against France is give more space and more freedom to players like Kylian Mbappe, Antoine Griezmann, two incredibly technically gifted players, but that's exactly what other teams are now going to be forced to do with Karim Benzema in the fold as well. Benzema's presence allows Kylian Mbappe to potentially make runs in behind. He can pull a center back out of position by playing in the half spaces, open up a channel for Antoine Griezmann to run into as a second striker. He can link with Thomas Lemar, Lemar and Dembele, Kingsley Coman, whoever is playing in those wide positions. And what makes this French attack so scary, if that doesn't make them scary enough, is that all of those players, Benzema, Mbappe, Griezmann, can play in different positions as well. It's not everybody playing on their own part of the pitch. Mbappe plays on the left, but he plays as a striker for PSG. Griezmann can play as a striker, can play as a number 10, an advanced number 10, and he can play on the left. Benzema can play as a striker, but he can also create from wide. Playing against France in this year's Euros is quite literally going to be just 90 minutes of this mosh pit of 4 or 5 really talented attacking players weaving in between one another, taking on different positions on the pitch, being so unpredictable and causing so many problems for the opposition defense. I absolutely love the inclusion of Karim Benzema into the squad. That said, we should not forget about Olivier Giroud. He was one of France's most important players in that World Cup 2018 run, and he may still have a massive role to play in this year's Euros as well, even if his minutes will be a bit reduced with Benzema now in the fold. Giroud is exceptional in the air, in the 18-yard box. He's fantastic in link-up play, and similar to what Benzema will do, he just opened up space for those more technically gifted players, the Mbappes, the Griezmanns, the Pogbas even, And that's not even to mention Marcus Thuram, Wissam Ben Yedder. I mean, this French squad has so many good players in this attack. Thuram and Ben Yedder, you can argue, would be starters for almost any other team in this competition. They're damn near afterthoughts when we look at this French attack. In midfield, there are a couple different ways that I think this French squad can play, but there are two consistents. N'Golo Kante and Paul Pogba have to be in this French team, no matter what kind of tactics they choose to throw out. It's just a pairing that works so well together. You've got Kante, the player who can screen the defense, screen the back line, play in that holding six role, and Pogba, the more technically gifted of the two, who can get further up the pitch, knowing he has Kante behind him, gives him more freedom to advance and create in the final third. That pivot, whether they're playing in a 4-2-3-1 or if they're 2/3 of a three-man midfield, Pogba, Kante, I think are absolute locks, and they have to be if this French team is going to play well. France do have some fascinating options if they choose to play with three midfielders at the Euros alongside Paul Pogba and N'Golo Kante. Corentin Tolisso is in the squad. Moussa Sissoko is also in the squad. I think the most intriguing option, though, for that third midfielder slot is Adrien Rabiot, currently at Juventus, because he allows France to do a couple of things. He can tuck into that double pivot, play with N'Golo Kante, allow Paul Pogba to play maybe on the right side of a 4-2-3-1 like he did at times with Manchester United, or he can drop into a flat three-man midfield, Rabiot, Pogba, Kante a little bit deeper, Rabiot and Pogba the ones who can advance the ball with Kante screening the back line. A lot of different things that France can do in midfield, and Adrien Rabiot unlocks quite a bit of that. Defensively, I think the center backs pick themselves. It should be Raphael Varane. It should be Presnel Kimpembe, France's two best center backs at the moment. And there's also Benjamin Pavard, who'll be playing in that right back role, most likely. That allows France to, in possession, play with a three at the back. That left back can push further up the pitch, which is why I'm so upset that Theo Hernandez did not make this squad, because that's his role. That's the perfect role for a player like Theo Hernandez to play in. Left back, but more of a left winger, a faux left winger when the team is in possession. That being said, his brother Lucas can fill in that role, and unlike Theo, he actually is included in the France squad for Euro 2020. Or it can be somebody like Lucas Digne, another left back, plays for Everton, who likes to advance high up the pitch. Couple options there at left back, but it will be fascinating to watch this France defense shift from a 4-back to a 3-back when the team is in possession. In goal, there's really only one player that we need to mention when we're talking about who could legitimately get the starting nod, and that's the captain, Hugo Lloris. That friendly against Wales on Wednesday was the 100th time that Hugo wore the captain's armband for France. His next cap with the French national team will be his 125th. 34 years old, still kicking, still doing it. I think he's still one of the best goalkeepers in European football. Not just well, maybe it is my bias, but statistically, he was actually very good for a rather lackluster Spurs side this season. In the squad, there's also Mike Maignan, Steve Mandanda, but let's not kid ourselves. Hugo Lloris, if he's healthy, if he is 50%, will be the starting goalkeeper for France and will likely be the captain for France when they take the pitch in Euros. No need to overthink this one. Managing France at this year's Euros is a familiar face, Didier Deschamps, who's been in charge of the French national team since 2012, the second longest tenured manager in this year's field behind only Germany's Joachim Löw. He's a rare example of a federation, of a national team, sticking with the manager for relatively long term, because there are not many guys who've been in charge of a national team for 8, 9, 10 years, but Deschamps is one of them. He was, of course, a fantastic defensive midfielder as a player for the French national team, won the 1998 World Cup, won the 2000 Euros, had a very long and illustrious career with clubs like Juventus, Marseille, Nantes, and after a couple managerial stints at the club level, he finally jumped into the international waters, took over for Laurent Blanc back in 2012 as the man in charge of this French national team. But the start of his tenure was almost disastrous. See, France finished second in their World Cup qualification group that year, and if you're not familiar with the way that Europe does their World Cup qualifying, you need to win your group to win a place in the next year's World Cup. If you finish second, you go to a playoff with another team that finished second. And in their playoff, they fell behind 2-0 to Ukraine after the first leg. It required an immaculate comeback in the second leg back in France. That's what they got. They won 3-0, so almost missed out on the 2014 World Cup in Brazil. They ended up making it. They got all the way to the quarterfinal round as well. Following that, Deschamps finished second at Euro 2016 with this France squad, of course, losing to Portugal on the extra time Adair goal, but they only went and won the World Cup in 2018. So very safe to say, I think, that it's a good thing that France didn't give up on Didier Deschamps after that nearly disastrous World Cup qualifying campaign back in 2014. We will likely see Deschamps play in a 4-2-3-1. We've discussed some of the finer details of it in this video. We may also see him use a 4-3-3 or a 3-4-3, depending on what he wants to do. Here are some examples of how France could line up in all three of those shapes. But again, 4-2-3-1, probably the likely shape, at least to start matches. 3 words, folks: group of death. That is what Group F is in this year's Euros, because it includes the 2018 World Cup winners, the 2016 Euro winners, the 2014 World Cup winners, and then also Hungary. Still, I think every single match that comes out of this group will be must-watch because A, the fight for that top 2 is going to be so cutthroat, and B, I like Hungary a lot, not as a team that can make a run, but as a team that can throw some wrenches into some teams' plans. They've got a whole lot of talent in that Hungarian squad. Obviously, the big one is Dominik Szoboszlai, the wonder kid currently at RB Leipzig, but they could do some damage. I don't think they'll finish top 2. There's an outside chance they finish in that 3rd spot and test their luck in that lucky 3rd place group. But Hungary can cause issues, and that's why I think this group is so much fun to watch. Currently, France aren't the favorites to win this group. That's Germany, but truthfully, I don't know why. We'll talk about Germany and Portugal in videos a little bit later in the week, but speaking on France specifically, this is the only team, this is the only nation that I look at in this group and can't pick out one specific positional weakness in it. I mean, they're so well-rounded everywhere. It's tough for me to find a place that these teams really can consistently exploit. I think it's the best attacking group in the tournament. It's, of course, the defending World Cup champions. I think that they'll win Group F. If you want to play it, you can play it at plus 135. That's 27 to 20 odds if you play the fractions. I think I'm not going to call it a no-brainer because, again, it's a group of death and anything can happen in it. But if you're forcing me to pick one of these 4 teams, France, Germany, Portugal, Hungary, I'm most confident with France. I think they'll win Group F. But I think this group will be so unpredictable from match day 1 to match day 3. Let me know who you think comes out on top in Group F, the group with France, Germany, Portugal, and Hungary. Certainly the most exciting of the 6 groups in the competition. Also, let me know in the comments below how you think France will do as a whole at this tournament. Are they your favorites to win the whole thing? Do you think that they're being overhyped a bit? Let me know. I want to hear from you guys what you think of Les Bleus, how they will perform in Euro 2020. If you liked what you saw, please go ahead and click that like button, click that subscribe button. This is the second of many Euro 2020 and Copa America previews that I'll be coming out with in the next week and a half, 2 weeks or so. So click that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single upload from them. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter at WillFowler5. Follow London's Finest on Twitter at London's Finest QU. That is the show that me and 2 of my friends do 3 days a week, where we hop on a Zoom call, discuss all of the biggest news stories, breaking news, transfer rumors, everything in the world of European and North American football. I will link both of those things in the description below. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video when we break down Portugal.